All right, welcome back to OllieGolf.com. I'm your host, David Ugono. I am here today with Coach Rich Parker. He is a men's golf coach at Dartmouth College, home of the Big Green. Now, this is going to be a great interview. This is one of the few interviews that I research, and I'm just like, I don't know where this is going to go. And that's usually a good thing because there's stories there. Now, Rich, you were a former tour player. You were an accomplished golfer, teacher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't say that out of indifference, but when did your golf journey start? Because you have a very wide-ranging array of experiences. When did your golf journey start for you?
You know what? I started as a little kid. Both my parents played. My father broke the golden rule: never marry a woman who can beat you in golf. My mother was an excellent golfer. We grew up at a little 9-hole golf course here in Lebanon, Carter Country Club. It's actually a Donald Ross course. Used to live at the golf course as a kid. I mean, I played all the sports every day as a little kid. Quite honestly, professional golf was probably about 4,000 on my list of things I thought I'd be.
Really?
Up. Yeah, I always just thought I'd be a coach. I knew I'd play sports. I didn't know I would get to play as many as I did, but I always just thought one day I'd be a teacher and a coach.
Okay. Now, take us back to, I would say pre-college or that age range. I mean, what are the sports that you play? I mean, you're an all-action guy. You're my type of guy. Like, well, I mean, you were never just hanging out waiting for a season to open. You were always in season.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I played 3 sports all my whole life, right up through into high school. I was a decent high school athlete. I actually took 2 years off after high school and worked, and I saved up enough money. But my mother kind of thought that I probably should pay for my first year or two of school because she didn't think that I would take college as serious as she wanted me to. So I actually worked in a steel plant for 2 years out of high school, and that drove me to college. I went and visited a few. Ended up going to Plymouth State here in New Hampshire in the White Mountains, Division III school, home of Joe Dudek. What the heck, vote for Dudek. Great football player. And, my first year there, actually, Dave, I just played golf. I went out for golf because I knew that I could play golf, and half the kids on the team were from my town. And I was not going to go out for the other 2 sports just because I really wanted to concentrate on my studies that first year, just to prove my mother wrong, I guess. So I ended up having a decent golf season that freshman year, and they talked me into going out for basketball, which is another story in itself. We could probably do a book on that. That was the longest season of my life. So I decided not to play baseball that freshman year. I used to go watch the games. And I'd been away from baseball for longer than the other sports because, taking 2 years off after high school, you really didn't have any place to play baseball. Then I went on my sophomore year. I ended up going out for baseball. That's a great story. And I played golf again. I played basketball. I was starting shooting guard on the team as a sophomore. Went out for baseball, and baseball is an amazing story, how I made the team and how it all ended up working out. I ended up having a very, very productive career in all 3 sports, and ended up being a 3-sport captain my senior year at Plymouth State. And,
wow.
A lot of people called me the underachiever, and I should have did this and I should have done that, but, sports wasn't a full-time job for me at college. It was fun. And like you said, I skipped all the preseasons. The only preseason I had to go to was golf, because they overlap each other, which made it awesome for me. I could just jump right into it. Right into it. Yeah.
Yeah, preseason is, I don't care what sport you play, preseason
right.
Football kind of gets
the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So, now, what happened after college? I mean, where was your mind at as far as, okay, what now? Did you want to give yourself a self-imposed sabbatical again, or what were you thinking?
After college, what happened was my senior year, I had a 1 semester extra to go, as you would suspect. So my mother was right in some degree. So I had an extra semester to do. So I chose to come back I took the fall off, and I actually went to Florida and turned pro and played golf. And I came back to play baseball to finish out my college career. And that did not work out as the way we thought it was going to. So when I got out of college, I got my degree. You know what? I came home and I just worked. You know, I was a professional golfer, but then I just played in New England. You know, I played the New Hampshire Open. The Lamont Open was 10 minutes from my house. Played the Bang. You know, I played those tournaments, and I actually worked at a moving company as well in the summertime. And I played softball. I was like on a professional. It was unbelievable. I mean, all these things I did. I mean, I played 80 games of softball there for like 3 or 4 years after college.
Wow.
We traveled, played slow pitch softball, and you know, got to go to the Nationals a couple times. And I just had a good group of guys that, you know, that was a weekend deal. You know, and even that first year out of college, we moved to Montana with my buddies too to kick it off. I forgot about that. As soon as we worked all summer after that last year in '84. We all saved up $1,000, and 4 of us moved to Bozeman, Montana, because one of my buddies had gone to Montana State. I actually worked at a feed plant, freezing to death out there at AgriBasics. And I ended up coming home at the beginning of April. I think we went out there in September. And I came home. There was a job opened up at the driving range here in West Lebanon. A great family owns this driving range, and they asked me to run it. That's really how I started off being a professional golfer right there. You know, really getting into it. Started playing in pro-ams, and you know, I played a little bit, and one thing led to another. I went to tour school for the very first time, and I got humiliated out there in Indiana. I missed a 2-day cut, and you know, I came home, my head between my legs. I really didn't. It was a tough situation back then. Things were different than they are now. You know, you didn't have the monies, and you know, people didn't cater to you left and right. Everything you did, you earned. Came home, played again that summer. I went back again to tour school. I believe the second try, I probably got through. I got through the first stage for sure. But then a couple of those winners, I went to South Africa and played. With Bobby Molt took us over there. This was back when Ernie Els was just getting out of high school, was just playing great over there. And Mark McNulty and Simon Harbday, and you know, all the great players from South Africa were in their prime over there. And I went over there with Tom Lehman, went with us, and Nolan Hankey and Tommy Tolles, and I didn't know any of these guys. You know, I went to Little Plymouth State. These guys are Florida State, Georgia, Minnesota kids. You know, big time golfers, and that's really how I really started getting into the golf. Like, started playing. Like, you know, I look at tour school now. I look at these guys on TV, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to tour school final 3 times. I couldn't even get through the LPGA tour school right now. You know, it's like I'm thinking that the golf wasn't as good back then. That's the only thing I can. Listen, I was a decent golfer. I was a streaky putter. I shot plenty. I've shot anywhere from 60 to 90 in my life. So I mean, I had my moments, but they just didn't all come at the same time, unfortunately for me.
Well, let's take a quick side glance at just where you are in your progression here. Now, you're saying that, I mean, you have a very you're like I said, you're the action guy. Hey, you want to go to Montana? Let's go. Okay, you want to play softball? Let's go. And that takes a different type of perspective and a different type of outlook. Now you're picking up golf and you're messing with these other guys who are, you know, you said you came back home with your head between your legs. I mean, what did you tell yourself? Was it something that was like, oh, I'll show them, or I just need to work on this, or was it just as long as I have a shot, I'm going to keep playing? Where was your head at dealing with all that? Just as far as you're stepping into something that you obviously love. You know, you enjoy golf. but it's not coming off the way that you want it to. And you're seeing the landscape of who you're coming up against. So,
Right.
I mean, where was your head at?
You know what? I think when I got home, I was thoroughly embarrassed, but it had nothing to do with anybody else. It wasn't about how good the other guys were. I went out there and I spent the whole time practicing and beating myself to death out there and paid attention to everybody's swing. Look, it didn't take me long to figure things out. I mean, but that first time was just, that was one of the low points definitely of my golfing career. This game can bring you a ton of heartache. I mean, for the few happy moments that you get, you know what though? Even as down as I was, still it wasn't like. I mean, it was golf to me back then. It wasn't like when I missed at tour school, I didn't throw things and I didn't get mad at people because I always knew that I had something that I could do. I guess like my wife tells me, unfortunately for me, I've never been a big money guy. I've never worried about money. I've never had any, but money's never been a priority for me. And so when I missed at tour school, I always felt like there was something I could do. But that first time definitely woke me up, and that was I just knew what I needed to do. I needed to be myself, not to pay attention to anybody. Don't worry about my swing, and play my game. And I've always been a scrappy guy on the golf course. Never been pretty. A lot of times you'll play with me and you say, "What did you shoot today, Rich?" I had 68. You did? That's the kind of golfer that I was. A lot of the times when I had to be. I mean, that was, I'm talking to you now. It's hard to believe that I played golf. It's been 30 years now since I've been with Titleist. Actually, I've been a professional golfer for 30 years this year, and it's hard to believe, quite honestly, that I did some of the things that I did. I've been very fortunate, the traveling that I've done and the people that I've met, and now I get to coach kids, which can pass on what I know, and it's amazing, really. It really is. It's quite a story. It's a long story, and I've always wanted to write a book because people thought I should, but instead I have a radio show and I get to talk every Saturday morning and tell stories.
No, that's a perfect segue. Thank you, by the way. But that's a perfect segue into what you're doing now. How did you get into coaching and teaching? You mentioned how you never really saw yourself or really, cared too much to be a tour player. Why teaching? Why coaching?
You know what? I had my chances. I think I stayed out there till I was like 33 years old. I had 3 years on the Nike Tour. I played in a few PGA events. I played in the U.S. Open, the USAM. I just wasn't good enough. And it took me probably a little longer than it should have to figure it out. And then I came home. And I taught. I worked at the golf courses. I never really got into the PGA program. I just was, I always boycotted that. I marched to my own tune, as you've probably figured out. And that probably cost me a ton of money too. I felt like I'd already been to college. I've done everything in golf I could do it. I've worked at golf courses. I've taught people for summer upon summer. So I didn't do the PGA thing. I started to, and then this. Sorry. This opening at Dartmouth came 9 years ago, where the coach stepped away and they had an interim position. I interviewed for the job, and I think the Dartmouth people might have been a little skeptical about hiring myself up there. I'm a local guy. Went to Plymouth State and not a Dartmouth man. In that first year, Josie Harper was the athletic director, and she gave me so much support. And I had a great experience that first year with the kids that I was given. And it's funny, my first 4 or 5 years at Dartmouth, our motto had always been the same. We're always going to have a lot of fun. We're always going to go on great spring trips, and we're not that good. 2 of those will never change, and now we're good, and it's amazing to coach these kids. For me, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I making the money I would like to? No. I really feel like I'm a good coach. I have the kids' respect, I think. They have mine. There is a line there between us, but there's also an element of I'm young enough. I feel like I know what they're doing, and I think I'm making a difference in their lives, and they certainly make a difference in mine.
Now, that's what it's about. I don't care.
Yep.
If you're everyone else says, oh, if you're a garbage man. Well, for one thing, garbage men get paid very well. I mean, I'm not saying like I want to be one. I'm saying they get compensated very, very well. But in reality, especially when you come from an athletic background or neighborhood or family, usually you don't want to, when you're done with your playing days, whatever that means, however long that takes, you're usually not suited for a desk job or a job where you're just, moving papers around or managing other people where, there's no dynamism or any, like, just fun to it or dare I say, action.
Right.
And, and to be in a position to have a job where you can, A, do what you're good at, B, impact people or, the younger generation and what you're good at. And C, I mean, it shouldn't even be C, it should be, 1A. You get to have fun. I mean, money is of no object, and to me, that's what, if you want to be a top performer at anything, those three components have to be in there. I mean, not necessarily in order, but you have to love what you're doing so that it's not a job. Everybody who has a job, it wears on you. It gets old, So, now stepping back to what we're saying, I mean, Dartmouth is in the Ivy League, okay? Like, what does that mean? Did you feel pressure? You said you're a local guy. You're from Plymouth State. Did you feel the pressure, or did you even care? I mean, what was your outlook stepping into a situation where, I mean, you're not necessarily one of them, but it's still golf.
Yeah. You know what? I think everybody else was nervous about it. I not for 1 second was I nervous about it. I mean, I know when to bite my tongue now. I'm old enough. I'm 54 now. I'm not the kid I used to be. And I was never worried about being a Dartmouth guy. I mean, it's kind of funny growing up around here. It's like a mystery what goes on up there. But once I was inside, it's nice. The coaches, we have a great relationship with all the other coaches. We have a lot of coaches meetings. It's good staff, good dealing with good kids. You're not dealing with the high school kids anymore. You're dealing with these smart kids who have been stereotyped just to the limits of. It's just they're so far from what people think. These kids are just good kids. They're not all rich, spoiled kids. They're common sense. They're sensitive. They're like me and you. I'm dealing with a good group of kids here, and I don't lay in bed. I don't have to worry about them at night anymore. I kind of got the group that I want right now, and I'm getting plenty of support at Dartmouth. Since President Kim came in here a few years ago, and he was all about athletics for us and got us back on the map, and we have the support now that we always needed. And listen, I'd love a little more money. We all would. I mean, I have to teach on the side now. I do a radio show on Saturday mornings, but I'm not going to leave this job. It's not going to happen. I'll leave this job when they tell me to leave this job.
Now let's get into. You talked about you have the group that you want. What do you want in a Dartmouth golfer?
What do I want? You know what I would love for my kids, Dave? I would love for my kids to show up to the golf course, hit a few practice balls, and go play golf. That's what I want out of my kids. And, for the last few years, and I'm sure every coach is going through this, you always have 2 or 3 kids who are always worried about their swing. I'm trying to get my kids out of that. I want them to learn how to just play golf by feel. You don't have to have this certain feeling. You don't have to go to 47 practice swings to hit a golf shot. I'm just trying to make it simple for my kids. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to give them shortcuts how to play. All the kids nowadays, they all have swing teachers, so it's pretty hard to interfere with anybody's swing. And, my time is so short with them up here that you don't really have time to. but I certainly can teach them how to play. I know I teach them how to act. I mean, you know, it's like I think any golf coach in the country, when their kids leave them, that the kids should be ready for the world, and I think that's probably 99% true for most anybody. That being a golf coach in college, golf is a small part of it. It really is. The time we spend together in the van with the kids, and you know, the heartaches you go through with the family problems and the girlfriends and the studies, and it's amazing. You know, people think you're just a coach, but everybody's got problems, and you know, there's meetings to go to, and there's paperwork, and but when you get that time on the ball field with the kids, there's nothing like it. That's what it's all about. You know, those rides in the van for Dartmouth kids are probably more important than the rounds of golf. We have so much fun in the van. You know, there's lots of singing, there's joking, they want to hear stories. Makes those 6-7 hour rides. We don't get a lot of home games up here. You know, we have to go down to Jersey, Connecticut, so we have a lot of long trips, and you know, and we're playing better. So obviously, when you play good, the trips are like unbelievable. So, but when you don't, you gotta. They get quiet, but I'm sure that's every team in the country. You have a lot of quiet rides home, but you know, it's been awesome. You know, and my goal since I took this job was I just want to be able to get in the van, drive down the road, knowing that my team has a chance. And that's what they've given me, and that's what we're doing. You know, and any given weekend, we have a chance now. We're talented enough that it could happen, and it has a couple times, and it certainly makes all the heartache worth it.
That's go ahead.
I know I'm giving you a mouthful, but I'm just trying to give you the how I feel, really.
Oh, I'm going to give you more to say here. Don't even sweat that one bit. So, yeah, I mean, what you just said is something that you have to work towards just as a coach. You know, the group that you had the past couple of seasons, I would imagine you didn't start off with a group with the similar personalities or traits. So that leads me to think, like, what are some of the habits, or just habits is sort of a bad way of saying it. What are some of the attitudes or perspectives that you try to mold and try to shape into your players?
For my kids, you know, I've got a saying that I've used here the last few years. I have a lot of different rules than probably most coaches. You know, at Dartmouth, if you throw a club, you're suspended for a week. If you throw two, you're retired. Any cheating at all, you're done. If you get accused of cheating, you're in a tough situation with me and the team. I like to tell my kids when they speak that I should come out of their mouth. And that's not always a great thing. But I just feel like I want people to want to play golf with Dartmouth. You know, hey, we got paired with Dartmouth today. You know, you get paired with some teams, it's a penalty. You know, and I don't want that for other teams. You know, it shouldn't be a penalty to play with the Dartmouth kids. You know, I teach. You know, it's just so much to it. And you know, it's funny. I've talked to people, and I've told some of the people my rules, and there are a lot of people who probably couldn't play golf for me, and that kind of makes me sad, because I've had other people like Chip Beck, you know, the PGA Tour player. Chip said to me one time, he goes, "You really have to explain those rules to your kids?" I said, "Not everybody does." So, everything's cut and dry at Dartmouth. And the thing I love about with coaching golf is that the scores don't lie. You know, there's no politics. You know, here's what's your shot. Here's who's going. It's pretty simple. You know, once in a while it happens when it gets down to the Ivy League Championship, and we've got, you know, a couple of guys that duking it out, and I'm gonna have to make a tough decision. But you know, for the most part, we've been very humble when we've lost, and we've had a lot of practice at that. And it's been the same way with the few tournaments that we've won. I'd love to tell you a story. The first tournament that we ever won, couple of years ago when I had Peter Williamson on my team, who was three-time Ivy champ. But we go down to Philadelphia. We play in the Big Five, which is a huge tournament, 25, 26 teams down there in Philly. And we get up in the morning, and every last round they want me to give them a number to shoot, 290, 288. This particular morning I said to my team, I said, today, Pete is sitting in the front seat like he did for 4 years. I said, what's the number today, Coach? I said, the number today is 1. He said, what? I said, you're going to win today. I said, we've been humble. We've been humble in our defeats. I said, we're going to be humble champions. And he kind of mocked me. He said, humble champions, huh? I said, humble champions, you got it. I said, I don't want any nonsense out there today. We're going to play golf and lat them up. Long story short, it was a battle all day. It was us and Campbell coming down the stretch. And I'll never forget the Campbell coach came over and asked me what we shot. And I told him, he said, you guys just won the Big Five. And I walked over to my team. I said, congratulations, boys. You just won your first tournament on the road. And, they shook each other's hand, gave each other a hug. Went to the awards ceremony. Brian Quinn, great host. We took the trophy and said thank you. I was walking to the car with one of my freshmen and one of my juniors, and I said, I got to tell you, I said, the feeling I have for you kids, I said, my whole life I wanted to shoot a big elk. And I said, a couple of years ago, I finally got to shoot this big elk. And I walked over to this elk laying on the ground. I looked at this big elk, and I said, now what the heck do I do? I go, that's the same feeling I have for this team. I said, we've achieved a major goal. We won on the road with this young group of kids, and they hadn't said a word. We walked to the van, and everybody's saying goodbye to us. I have a good trip home. We've got a 7-hour ride home. They're going Princeton's going 45 minutes, Penn's going 15 minutes, and my kids have not said a word. Everybody leaves the parking lot, and when the door slid shut, you could have made a movie. My kids for 5 minutes were diving over the seats, hugging and screaming and hollering. It was the coolest thing that I've ever been a part of in sports. And wow. I've been involved in a lot of great moments. I had tears coming down. It just, it just made it so worth it. That's why you coach. And it made me proud that they acted like champions. And the next week we go to Rhode Island, I'll be a son of a gun. We won again. We go from never winning to winning 2 in a row, and it was just the coolest thing. And that group ended up losing in the playoff to lose the Ivy League championship that next spring, a couple of years ago. And, it was a special group of kids. And, you don't forget those things. And I know they don't either. And you know what? We've had some fun when we've lost, too. We've had a lot of chuckles on this van rides.
Wow, that's a great story. That's a great story.
No, I'm probably talking too much, but I'm just...
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're definitely hitting a high percentage, which is good. Now, you just told a great story about just your team and how they won. I mean, who plays any team sport or any game and doesn't want to win? Now,
right.
I guess I have 2 questions. I'll ask the first one, and then after you answer that, I'll answer this guy. The second one, did you do like, icebreakers, or did you do like team bonding, methods or games or activities? How did you build to that moment when you won the Big Five?
You know what? Dartmouth just brought in this DP2. It's a peak performance program where they do have, and I keep trying to get my team into one of these team bonding moments, but we have not done anything officially. You know what? You bond in the van. It takes one kid to ruin a trip. And you know what? And it takes 5 to have a great trip. So we've kind of got it now where, and not that, you know what? I really haven't had a lot of bad kids. I mean, none that we let rock the boat. Everybody on the team gets a nickname. Everybody's got a nickname. They're not given by themselves, believe me. It's changed. Things have changed now. Everybody gets to play their own music. They'll get a couple segments of music, and we've kind of evolved as we've gone. But the bonding thing, you know what? Everything's, like I said, everything's right there in front of us. The kids, they talk to me. I talk to them. I have the 24-hour hotline at home. You know, when something happens. I'm a lot of things, but one thing that I am is I'm an honest person, and I think they understand that. And you know, when I give them the rules or I tell them things, they get a little nervous around me. It's getting better now because, you know, my first few years, everybody thought I was a really good golfer, so every time I came to watch them play in the tournaments, I'd make them nervous, which kind of drove me nuts because, you know, I used to tell them, you know, who I'm rooting for, Dartmouth. But now I don't play that much anymore around the kids, so it's good now. There's a great relationship there where I can pull up and watch them. I'm not a big advice giver on the golf course with these kids. I don't know. You know what? It's hard for me to explain how we do have this bond because it would probably be better explained by them. But from my point of view, you know what's funny? When we go out to eat, we don't sit together. Although we have this great bond.
Really? What does that look like? What does that look like if you guys go to...
It looks like 5 guys going one way and 1 going the other. That's what it looks like. And it's like, it's kind of funny. Even if we go to like a Chipotle or something, there'll be a little space. You know, there's hardly ever one kid that will come sit with me. Listen, I don't eat with them because I don't want to eat with them. I want to give them their space. But when we have to, it's still kind of funny how they keep their space because, I mean, I guess we just spend so much time together that it's not like they say, hey, I don't want to eat with Coach. And it's not like that. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I give them their space when it's time to eat. And I'm not very demanding. I tell them, I said, I need you for 6 weeks in the fall and I need you for 5 weeks in the spring. And then you have 41 weeks to do what you really want besides working out with the trainer and stuff. So it's like, and they're starting to buy into that too. You know, they're starting to buy into this, that the seasons are short, time's precious. You got 4 years to do this. You know, it's not like the pros where it's unlimited time. You come to college, you have 40 or 50 tournaments in front of you, and you can just count them down as you go. And before you know it, we're walking down the aisle, and we're all crying, and everybody's leaving. It goes so fast. And these kids see them come and go. I think they understand the time that they have, and it's precious.
Now, I mean, that's intriguing in the sense that on one hand it doesn't make sense, but on the other hand it makes total sense. You don't have to, if you can explain how your team dynamic is to a T and why it works, then you're probably not doing it right. You know, at some point you have guys that are just you got to give them space, and other times, you don't even know what set it off, who started it. But
right.
He said 2 guys there, 3 guys there, you're off eating by yourself. Everybody knows, when the van is leaving, so it's not like there's really an issue. So, I mean, that's awesome. Now, my second question is sort of a tricky question, and I'm not trying to, this is not a test by any means, but golf is a very individual sport. It's a very mental sport. You are in charge of your long game, your short game, your temper, all that stuff. You're in charge of it. So how do you build that into a team dynamic? I mean, in the pros and before they get to college, and some of them do play high school golf and whatever, you can be the hot shot. You can be the dude who just does what he does. Everybody else just doesn't mess it up. But college is sort of a different dynamic in a sense that, there's major championships and tournaments to win that are at stake if you can win as a team. How do you build in a team dynamic into golf, which is so much more about the individual?
I tell the kids the first day we meet with compliance, you have 4 years left. These are to play. You're playing on a team. So one thing, you should be honored that you get to play on a team with your buddies. I said, number 2, these will be the last time in your life that anybody actually cares about what you do on the golf course besides you. I said, because once these 4 years are over, the team golf's over, and no one cares. This is the one time in your life where you can get in the van And when everybody plays good, everybody wants to hear what everybody else is doing. I said, when you're a professional golfer or you win your club championship, after about one hole, someone's going to say, let me sign for a card if we're going to go 18 holes. That's just the way it is. And these kids buy into the team thing. And even when they're on the golf course, once in a while, kids say, I should really do this for the team, pitch it out. I said, you don't have an option. Of course you should. You're one of the 5 guys. You can't leave the last guy hanging. You know what? It takes a little bit, though, to play team golf, quite honestly, because, you get a lot of these kids who didn't play on good high school teams,
mm-hmm.
And they were the guy, and you're playing with guys.
No problem.
I'm sitting in an office, and they keep the intercom. So what happens is you get a lot of these guys that didn't play on great high school teams, like I didn't, and it's like you go out there and play your golf, and you wait for your buddies to come in. How'd you do? Hey, 92, 93. And quite honestly, I've been in the situation where I've been on a decent team and a bad team. There's no substitute for winning with your buddies. I think any golfer you ever talk to who played college golf would give up that individual trophy for the team to go on to the regional. Because I went 3 times with Pete Williamson to the regional. He would have given up those individual trophies to have his teammates go, because that's what it's all about. Period. Every weekend's a Ryder Cup for these kids, really.
Yeah. Wow. Now one of the things that you touched on is just that team dynamic and submitting for the team. You just said, I'm of the opinion that when you have a good set of guys or a good athlete, you don't have to motivate them one bit. You just, if anything, you have to get them to relax. You have to guide them away from, the battle. So how do you prepare your guys for a tournament mentally? What are some of the things that you focus on? Do you focus on motivation? Do you focus on, mental toughness, resiliency? Do you focus on let's just have fun? We worked on what we've worked on. We just need to prove it now. What's your take on that?
I've given these kids more speeches than Red Auerbach. You know what? I talk to them in the van. I try to get them. It's not anything they haven't heard. I just try to make them realize that the game is just it's a lot easier than everybody's making it out to be. And I just try to get them feeling good about themselves by the time they get out of the van. You know what? The good players that I've had, and I've had a handful of really good players, I never had to motivate those kids. You don't have to motivate great golfers. You know what? They're contagious. They become contagious to the other kids. And, it's the great college golf teams. You talk to any coach, good college golf, great college golf teams, because they're 4 and 5 guys are really good players. Even for us, like in the Ivy League, you need 3, 4, and 5 generally. And those are the guys that win you the golf tournaments. The great players you don't have to motivate. You got to keep the guys at the back of the bus. You got to keep them rolling. You got to get them going and believing in themselves. And those are the guys who aren't the great ones. Sometimes a bogey's like the end of the world. And then it's hard to explain, but it's like a roller coaster effect. If a good golfer makes a bogey, you know what he does? He writes it off as a bogey and come back birdie the next hole or two, and he sees the big picture. And I just don't. I've never had to motivate my good players, and I don't know how the guys at Illinois and Oklahoma State feel about their great players, but it's for me, it's everything at the back side of it. Get these kids believing in what they're doing and stop thinking. I think overthinking, for as far as what I see, is a big part of what's holding a lot of teams back. These kids are just thinking. You look at them warm up on the range. Every kid, they all look the same. Every kid's hitting the ball 300 yards, 320.
Mm-hmm.
They hit their irons high. It's early, cold in the morning, and you look at the scoreboard, and there's no correlation. It's like, wow, really? I've had to give a few talks to a bunch of kids at tournaments, and I said just that there should be a correlation of of how you hit the ball and what you shoot. And you know, the mind gets in the way, but not for the great players. For the great players, it's, you know, this is one of the few games, Dave, that you'll ever play with. The less you try, the better you get, and that's a fact.
Now that is a great quote, and it leads me into one of my last questions. It's sort of a deep question in a sense. So let's say that I play for you. I'm a sophomore, so I know what you're going to tell me, but I'm still struggling. I can't figure it out, and I have an opportunity, maybe not this season or this tournament, to make an impact and to push my team forward, but I have a lot of potential. Now, a quick aside, one of the coolest things about golf to me is that, especially from a coaching standpoint, and I'm saying this not being a coach, I'm just saying this because I thought about it, as far as a golf coach, that is. All the other sports, you can train discipline. You can train mental toughness to a certain degree. In football, if somebody jumps outside, you can run your guy. You know, you can make everybody do up down. Basketball, we're not running the right sets. We're not low enough, or we're not switching on defense. Gassers. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do to instill that mental toughness into other sports, at least in theory. In golf, it's so mental, and it's so golf,
you don't have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, golf, you either have it or you don't. So back to me, as you're struggling, sophomore, maybe super sophomore, how do you get me out of my? I don't want to call it a slump, because that implies that it's that I've had great success or good success, and I'm just not performing. I'm talking about the guy who has a load of potential, but is just beating himself up and he's not bouncing back. How would you coach me out of that?
You know what the problem with that is, and I've had that, and I have it now. I have a kid now who's a great player for me, who just played really bad this fall, and really the problem for us is at Dartmouth, school comes first. It's not a problem. That's just reality. Mm-hmm. You know, school comes first, golf comes second, fooling around comes third. And if that's not the priority, then the kids usually they kind of go by the wayside. And so when I get a kid who gets in a golf slump, it's generally not because of the golf. It's because he's falling behind at school and he's got testing, and there's just more to it than the golf. So at least that's how it is from my perspective. Because at Dartmouth it's not golf. And believe me, I've had this. I've got a couple kids right now, if you interview them, they say, you know what, I'm struggling. I had a bad fall. I don't really know what I'm going to do. We're going to go on the spring trip. We're going to practice, and we're going to try to get out of it. But, it's so hard. It's just hard. We're different. You said it yourself. This is the Ivy League, and it's golf-wise, for me as a coach, it would be a lot easier if we could just concentrate on golf. And I could get most of these kids back on track, but you know what? The only way we're going to do it is we're going to go to, I told this kid, I said, we're going to go on spring break. We're going to go to a place where we have a great practice facility. And I wrote this email tonight, and we're all going to come home ready to play. We're not going to try to figure out which end of the club to hold. We're going to play golf. And it's hard. That's a great question. And you know what? If you ask the coach who's at a school where golf is a priority, I'm sure you'll get a different answer. But I can tell you, when my kids are slumping on the golf course, there's something behind it, generally.
And it has nothing to do with golf.
It has nothing to do with golf. Yeah, it has nothing to do with golf. I have a great player right now that, for me this year, he just, he's got to had to do this, he had to do that, and, it all piled up on him, and we never found out till the end of the term, and it just, he just played bad, and, and I was just kept wondering what's going on. He'll come out of it. We're working on his pitching, and then the end, it was just everything that piled up on him, and mentally, we just went back. We just talked about the mental part of the game. Listen, if you're not mentally tough, golf's not for you. Period. There's no option there. You haven't seen any guy you see on TV playing golf. That's just on the checklist of things that you have to be. You know that. You've played sports.
Oh yeah. It's I mean, at the end of the day, we all pick our poison in the sense of the one thing that frustrates us so much, but at the same time, it's the one thing that brings us the most joy as far as an athlete or a professional or what have you. And it's a process, it's a journey. And you know, the cool thing about golf, the intriguing thing about golf is that in your depth of just, I don't want to say sorrow because this is not life and death, it's golf, okay? But like in the depths of your just complete ineptitude and being able to diagnose and fix your issues, you can start to find yourself. You know, yourself, your human self, not just, you know, your under par self or your tournament best self. And that is something that you know, across the landscape of golf, we don't really focus on college golf. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's good or bad or what that would look like even so. But we talk about amateurs, then we talk about Web.com Tour, and then we talk about PGA, we talk about Q School, we talk about Champions Tour. We don't talk about the college guys, because the college guys, the guys who have, I mean, if you're honest, the college guys have the most diverse amount of pressure at the peak of their mental exposure to being an adult. And it's crazy. Definitely crazy to me how much pressure they're under.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, my last question is, it's just so this whole conversation, I mean, this has been a great conversation because, I mean, I know you said that you feel like you talked a lot or went on, but to me that's the point, because it's all about the stories and the memories. It's not about I don't want to ever ask you or anybody for that matter questions about their perspective and them to give me, you know, multiple choice answers. That's I'll go ahead and do something else, you know, instead. But the last question is just a straight up semi-reflective. What are some of the big takeaways, whether it's just, you know, taking 2 years off of high school and working in the quote unquote real world and then getting back into it, your travels on tour, being a coach, having success, winning with your guys, building a program up, dealing with the Ivy League? What are some of your major takeaways that just seem to resonate again and again and again?
You know what? I've done a lot in my life, and hopefully there's a lot in front of me. I'm not a regrettable guy. I don't have a ton of regrets of what I've done or where I've been. I've done a few foolish things. But you know what? I really feel right now that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm here with these kids. I mean, I always felt like I was going to be a coach. I told you that in the beginning of the interview. I never, in my wildest dreams, would a golf coach ever enter my mind. Because I'm a competitor, and I get into things. I love basketball, and, you know, I was a decent baseball player, and, you know, you listen to people talk, and, you know, if you interviewed a bunch of people around here, they'll probably tell you that I should have done this or I should have done that. But you know what? I sleep at night. I love my kids. I love my team. I love the parents that I have to deal with. You know what? I have a fun little radio show on Saturday mornings that I do with my buddy who pitched for the Red Sox, who went to the same high school. I've got a great bride. You know, my wife, 20 years. We have 3 cool kids. And you know what? Everybody's keeping me young. You know, I'm 54, but I'm a young 54. And This has kept me young. I feel like I really feel like I could still play golf, although I haven't really played the last 2 summers. I mean, you don't know this, but we had a tire come through the team windshield 2 Octobers ago on a trip home. It set us back a little bit coming home from an event, actually coming home from the Big Five. The tire came through our windshield across the highway. That has set me back a little bit. So I haven't really played golf the past 2 summers. But I feel like I have a little bit of golf left in me, but I have a ton of golf to share with my kids, and that's, like my old legendary basketball coach, Lenny Metcalf, always said, I'm not always good as I once was, but every now and again I'm as good as I once was. And, I think that's true on the golf course for me, that I, once in a while I can still play good. But that's not even important to me. I kind of laugh when I come home now. My wife, she'll, where were you tonight? I was practicing. And then she'd look at me and I'm like, you know what? I really don't, there's no need for me to practice anymore because I've kind of done everything that I'm going to do in golf. I played in the U.S. Open. I played in the USAM. I made the cut at the Senior Open a couple of years ago at Sahalee, which was a highlight for me just to know that I could still do it. Mm-hmm. So it's not really about me anymore. It isn't. It's about what I'm doing. It's about my kids at home, and it's about my kids at Dartmouth, really, and my family, and just want to, hopefully I'll get another 25, 30 years out of this body that's been, had a fun career.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, when's the next? You mentioned the spring trip. What is your outlook heading into the spring portion of your season?
You know what? Our spring, we've got a couple teams that are really good here in the Ivy League. Yale and Harvard are stacked right up this year. Good teams. It's going to be hard for us this spring to win this tournament. It's funny, every year my kids, even last year after we lost Pete, my kids still thought they were going to win. I didn't have the heart to tell them that we couldn't. And I never would do that. My kids, right now, I brought in 3 really good freshmen. We have a pretty good team on paper. We need to go on that spring trip, and we need to come back ready. Everybody needs to be ready. I have really, on paper, we have 6 kids playing for 5 spots to go to the Ivy League Championship realistically. And those 5 need to step up and show me that they're the 5 and show themselves. It's going to be hard for us to win it. It really is. But, realistically, if we played decent, if we could finish 3rd or 4th, which, that's not really, I never got in the van and said, let's finish, hey, we're number 4. But we've said it a lot coming home. Mm-hmm. And that's like the running chant with my team. So, do we have a chance to win the Ivy League title this year? It's a long shot. It could be done. It's 3 days of golf. I have the kids that we could win it. I'll tell you that. We have the kids that could win it. It's just a matter of whether I'm going to have them ready to do it. We're going to come back from that spring trip. We're going to start playing. It's 4 quick weekends. Bang, bang, bang. And that 4th weekend of April is really the only tournament that matters every year. And that's it. We're going to Baltusrol this year, so that's big time golf. We're going to a big event and a big time golf course, and the men will step out in front. That's the game of golf.
No doubt. Well, Rich, Coach Parker, I just want to thank you for coming on to the show. I'm truly amazed at just how, the lead up to the interview. I'm kind of loose as far as just, I'm not as as wound up as other guys are. And I was like, okay, I've heard that before, and it's there is a tightly wound person in there. But this was a nice, loose, fun interview. If nothing else, Dartmouth golf is in good hands. It's very, 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 very
I mean, the demands on them before they even step on the golf course for you is, documented, okay? But the approach that you're fostering there, I think it's admirable, and you're getting results, which speak for themselves. So I wish you guys good luck and good timing to capitalize on the spring, and who knows, maybe talking to maybe you guys are better than fourth this year. We'll just stick with that. We won't forecast anything higher, but I have a hunch you guys might be a little bit better than fourth.
We're climbing the mountain again, Dave.
That's awesome.
We're climbing the mountain. We're climbing the mountain. We're just trying to hoist that jug one time.
No doubt. I mean, that's why you play, right? You don't play to just.
That's our goal every year, and it'll never change.
That's awesome. Well, Rich, I appreciate you taking time out for this interview.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you, everybody else, for being a part of it.